Aloha, friends and family, and welcome back to the channel. Up early this morning, like 5 o'clock early, and got in here, got to meditating, got to talking about faith and what is faith and how faith works and how we, how does a human come to realize that every single thing about life is become psyops, psychological operations. Like they covered every topic, you know what I mean? Like you bring up any topic you want to bring up, you already have psychological operations working in your mind against that truth, any truth that you would try to discover, or any course of, any path you would take to go down to try to discover truth. They've already got psyops in place to distort and confuse, and thus hopefully not lead you to truth, because they don't want you to find out any truth. They don't want you to awaken. They don't want you to realize you're completely captured and enslaved, and that every single thing they're giving you 24/7 is just more psyop to go with the psyop that we've already been given since day one. Right? So when Jesus says, if you have faith and you speak to that mountain, a mountain, and tell it to be cast into the sea, it shall be done unto you according to your faith. All right, that's a metaphor. Nobody's needing or wanting to tell a literal mountain to crush down and fall over into the ocean. But it's a metaphor for if a human were to have some kind of power, like what would be a good demonstration that he was really, really powerful? Well, shoot, man, if a human could just go walk up to a mountain and tell it to do something and then it did it, you'd be like, holy cow, man, that dude's got some power, right? And so Jesus is telling us, you do have that kind of power. You wouldn't use it in that way, literally, but you do have that kind of power, and you would use it in other ways. And for instance, psychological operations are mountains in your mind, right? They're massive structures, they're massive blocks, they're massive rocks, however you want to think of them. And there's not just one, there's numerous of them. And as you build your faith, as we build our faith, we come upon these mountains, which are just these psyops in our own minds, these psychological operations in our own minds. And we come against them and we say, hey, I see you now. I can see you now. I can see that you're a complete lie, that you're nothing but deception. You're not meant to help me get to truth or to discover truth. You're here to prevent me from seeing and knowing actual truth, which there's very little of in this matrix because they keep it hid. Speaking of which, I just had another great video removed. It is the bioweapon rollout. Now, yeah, it's a couple years old. It had to do with the thing that nobody's allowed to talk about, apparently, having to do with shots. And it was a really good video. And it's gone. Because they arbitrarily decide that truth has to be suppressed at all times, 24/7. It's psychological operations, ongoing. So our whole human lives have been built upon and around psychological operations, which becomes these mountains in our minds. And so we are building our faith, and our faith is getting stronger by the day, by the hour, where we begin to see. So you don't see them all at first. You don't see all the mountains of illusion and lies that you have within your mind when you first start to awaken. Or maybe you do, if you have that kind of awakening where you wake up and you're like, holy shit, everything is this mountain. Everything is a mountain of psyop. Either way it goes, one by one, we start to walk up to them and say, hey, cast yourself into the sea and be no more. Be no more in my mind. I am no longer under the curse of the psychological operations, because I see them for what they are. And my faith is the thing that illuminated them so that I could see them. So if you have that kind of faith, and what is that kind of faith? Powerful, strong, because it's rooted in truth. It's rooted in light. It's rooted in our direct connection to Source, the Creator, not some distorted version of it, not an egregor, not an idol, not a deity. See, those are all parts of the psychological operation pertaining to spirituality. Just wanted to drop back in and say hi. I haven't spoken in a while. Join us this evening for Friday Night Tribe Vibes. The Abundant Life Part 2. Great stuff. And see the nuggets, the wisdom, the knowledge of what builds faith. See, faith is not an on and off switch. You build faith. You build strong faith. You build the kind of faith that walks up to these mountains of psyop, because everything's mental anyway. You walk up to it and you obliterate it with this faith. You don't just do it with will. You can't do it with will. Go try to work your will on a mountain and see how far you don't get. So it's the faith is what moves the mountain, the faith. And the faith is rooted in love, unity, light, and a connection, direct connection with Source, the source of all light and life and love and unity and light. And we leave you in that love, unity, and light until we meet again soon, my great friends and family.